Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and busts. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we are celebrating New Year's together here on the Rita Cosby Show. I am thrilled to be with all of you guys. Boy, has 2025 been a wild year. Lots of uncertainty, lots of craziness. But we were talking earlier today about the fact that think about everything President Trump has done. In 2025, he hasn't even been in office 1 year in his second term, and it has been action-packed. And you look at all the things that have happened overseas, just even in the last year. How about in your communities? How about the fact we're going to have a Muslim mayor? It is the first one in New York City's history who's going to be putting his hand on the Quran when he takes the oath of office. And that's going to happen less than 2 hours from now. So Zohran Mandani will become mayor while we are here on the Rita Cosby Show, guys. This is going to be a classic, a new year and a new mayor. And what a change for New York City. We're going to be talking about it all. And of course, today there has been so much happening. I've been watching all the big celebrations. That's why we're playing a little bit of Kool in the Gang, because it really has been a good riddance year. It's been a long year. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like it has been a long action-packed year, and I think we're all ready for a great 2026. So I want to hear from you guys tonight because we're going to ring in the new year together. And I want to hear your thoughts about what you're looking forward to in 2026. What do you think were the biggest accomplishments for you, for America, for the world in 2025? And also, what about what you're wishing for in 2026? Because I want to ring in this big holiday with all of you. And many people are all over the globe. I've been watching these images today. I love New Year's. You guys know me. I love a good party. I love a good celebration. And I've been watching to see, like in Doha, Qatar. That was unbelievable. Sydney, Australia. That was beautiful too. Paris, they had the fireworks going off. Japan, all over the world. And in Times Square, where there will be about 1 million people in and around Times Square, in less than 2 hours, they will ring in the new year. It's freezing in New York. And this year, there are going to be 2 occurrences. First, the ball drops, as always, right at midnight. And of course, everybody kisses everybody, whether they know them or not. I survived Times Square as a teenager. Boy, I have some stories to tell, which we'll get to another time. A blonde woman in New York City as a teenager. I survived, right? I need to sing I Survived by Gloria Gaynor, but I did. But then also after midnight, then at 12:04, that same ball is going to light up again, and it's going to be red, white, and blue to kick off the 250th anniversary of our great country. So there's a lot to celebrate tonight. And there's also a lot of consternation tonight as Zohran Mandani is about to become the 111th mayor of New York City. Boy, oh boy. Well, first, here is Jessica Tisch. She, of course, is the NYPD commissioner. She is staying on from Eric Adams and is very much focused on security, because that's a big issue with so many of these threats around the globe. The wide open border of Joe Biden that, thank goodness, President Trump closed on day one. That, I think, is the biggest story of 2025, because we don't talk about the border anymore, because guess what? All it took was a new president. But there are definitely sleeper cells in this country, definitely a lot of concerns. And Jessica Tisch, thank goodness, who is staying on as the NYPD commissioner under Mandani. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if it's going to last very long because they're definitely different philosophically. But thank goodness she is on it when it comes to security. Here's what she had to say about security and safety in Times Square with the big event happening less than 2 hours from now.
New Year's Eve in Times Square is one of the largest and the most complex public safety operations anywhere in the world, and one the NYPD has secured successfully for decades. For the past year, we've been working closely with the Times Square Alliance and our partners across city, state, and federal government. At this time, there are no known specific credible threats to the New Year's Eve celebration in Times Square. As always, the men and women of the NYPD will be out there keeping everyone safe. The public should expect to see thousands of NYPD officers deployed throughout Times Square and the surrounding area. That includes officers from our specialized units, including Emergency Service Unit, K-9, the Bomb Squad, heavy weapons teams, and our harbor teams. Our helicopters and our drones will also be deployed during the day to provide comprehensive coverage in real time. We will also deploy dedicated pickpocket teams, hotel response teams, and additional uniform patrols to address quality of life and public safety concerns. There will be assets that you will see and others that you will not see. The Joint Operations Center will be fully activated with all of our city, state, and federal partners, and personnel there will be actively monitoring fixed and mobile cameras. Intelligence teams will also be monitoring social media for potential threats, and response units will be deployed citywide to investigate any reports in real time.
So that's a lot of officers. And guess what? When Zohran Mandani has his public inauguration, he's going to have a private one that takes place at the old City Hall subway station. That's going to take place at midnight Eastern time. So we're talking less than 2 hours from now. And then the public one takes place at 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Their AOC will be speaking and Bernie Sanders will do the swearing in. And on both occasions, he will be putting his hand on a Quran. He is the first New York City mayor to be sworn in on a Quran in New York City's history. So very interesting. We know that he's Muslim. He talks often about his faith, and he's using an old Quran that actually is on loan from the New York Public Library for the private one. And then I think he's using his grandfather's Quran for the public one at 1 o'clock. So what do you make of all of this, guys? Especially, there's going to be about 300 or 400 officers alone at that inauguration of Zohran Mandani, protecting Zohran Mandani and everybody else, despite the comments that he's made in the past, comments like this.
About defund the NYPD, the entirety of the push is defund the NYPD and refund all of these different social services and things that actually create safety.
Now changing his tune, claiming he doesn't want to defund the police.
I've been very clear about my view of public safety and the critical role that police have in creating that. The vision that we've put forward in this campaign, despite what others may say, is not to defund the police. It is, in fact, to allow those officers to respond to these serious crimes that many of them signed up to address.
Yeah, quite a contrast. Quite a contrast. And in the last day or so, he has named his school chancellor. It's someone who is big into diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's also named a guy named Ramzi Kassem, and he's going to be New York City Hall's chief counsel. Let's give a little background on who Ramzi Kassem is. He represented Mahmoud Khalil, who led all of those sort of I consider it anti-American, pro-Hamas protests that took place on college campuses, including at Columbia. He's the Columbia graduate, remember, who had the green card and still back and forth in terms of dealing with the Trump administration. And many people have said he should not be in this country because he was pushing what they believe are anti-American values in this country. He's fighting that. Again, a green card holder, a permanent U.S. resident. So there's a lot of discussions on that one. He also, this guy, Ramzi Kassem, who's the chief counsel for New York City under Zohran Mandani, who's going to be mayor in less than 2 hours. He also represented a terrorist, al-Darbi, who pleaded guilty in 2014 for his role in 2002 al-Qaeda terrorist plot to bomb a French oil tanker off the coast of Yemen. So a guy who pled guilty to terrorism. These are the people that now the new chief counsel of New York has worked with and represented proudly in the past. So there's a lot to talk about tonight. And by the way, also, this just came out a little bit ago from Mayor Eric Adams. He put out a tweet and it said, "I will never leave this city. Soon you'll know why." So maybe he's got something big here in New York. We'll find out. I have mayoral work to do, get this, until 11:59 Eastern time. So for another hour and a half, he's got mayoral work. And then he said, as I have a lot more citizen work after that. So that might be a hint of what Eric Adams is doing after the mayorship. You could tell he's been pretty vocal about his concerns of Zohran Mandani. And I think history is going to be very kind to Eric Adams. I think they're going to say, boy, did this guy get screwed in terms of the fact that the Biden administration went after him and many of his associates. The Campaign Finance Board didn't give him matching funds. And then at the end of the day, he's got a good record when he leaves office tonight. He is going to be talking about low crime. Look at a lot of the things he did in education. There's a lot of big things that he can tout. I think history is going to be very kind to New York City Mayor Eric Adams. And I think history is going to go, what the heck happened at midnight tonight with Zohran Mandani? 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And this is Rita Cosby with all of you tonight here on New Year's Eve, because I love all of you and I love being able to celebrate with all of you. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania on line 4. Joaquin, our first caller as we lead into 2026. Joaquin.
It's fantastic. I appreciate the honor. As a matter of fact, Happy New Year to you and to everyone.
Thank you. You too, my friend. You too. First, before you get into anything, your New Year's resolutions, Joaquin.
My New Year's resolutions are just to try and do the best I can despite my situation.
Wait, but no, your New Year's resolution should be to call into the Rita Cosby Show every day before you have breakfast, before you do anything. That's the most important thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I appreciate my time on your show.
Oh, we love having you.
And as a matter of fact, I want to refer to you on Cats and Cosby. When you were mentioning Zohran Mandani in comparison to Bill de Blasio, and you said that Mandani is a true believer, whereas de Blasio was not, and that is 100% true. You know, now instead of these faux wannabe socialists, you know, and Islamicists, we're getting the real deal now. And another interesting thing, too, is that everyone says that Zohran Mandani has no experience. But quite frankly, if you look back onto a lot of our other elected officials, many of them didn't have any real-world experience either. And case in point is Andrew Cuomo. He basically went to law school, and he might have done a brief stint at some law firm, and who knows what he really did there, but pretty much basically went into politics, into running the city. And quite frankly, as you look at the history of many of the communist revolutionaries like Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, all of these guys, they basically really didn't do anything else except for become communist revolutionaries right from the start. And what they all have in common is higher education. And quite frankly, a lot of them spent a lot of time in France.
That's an interesting point. And of course, we know Zohran Mandani's from Uganda. You know, it's interesting, Joaquin, because this is obviously a night, I think, so much of, perspective. And back, you brought up Andrew Cuomo, because I think of Andrew Cuomo, like you said, going into politics pretty quickly. Remember, he was HUD and did a whole bunch of stuff. But the thing, he was around his father's campaign. I mean, you see these images of him out there around so he grew up in that. Think about what a contrast this moment is from that background, or even, we talked about Eric Adams. Eric Adams, rising through, raised by his mother, rising through the ranks of the NYPD to what he accomplished. And then now Zohran Mandani, his father was writing books about how we need to understand suicide bombers better. You know, I mean, you can't make it up. And a lot of questionable funding coming in that people, you know, I know it's been reported out there, are looking into. I mean, it's an extraordinary moment. And to think about some of the people around Zohran Mandani, too. I mean, he's been palling around with that guy. Remember, he was seen with the imam who essentially was a character witness for the 1993, someone tied to the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11. I never thought in this moment, I mean, as much as we've been talking about it, it really is stunning to me as someone who was born in New York, and I love New York, you guys, and I love this country. And, you know, this is the greatest country in the world. And the fact that we are just about to have a socialist mayor who I think has said some really horrible things about the NYPD, horrible things about Israel, about Jews. It's shocking to me that we are on the precipice of what will definitely be, as I did say earlier, Joaquin, you probably heard me say, buckle up, because it's going to be a wild ride, I think, starting in an hour and a half. Joaquin, thank you very, very much. And Happy New Year, Joaquin. And remember your resolution to call the show every day before you brush your teeth, before you do anything, before you even answer your alarm clock. You got to set your priorities. I love you, Joaquin. You're great. We're going to continue. Thank you, Joaquin. We're going to continue calling, take your calls after the break, everybody. 1-800-848-9222. And this is the Rita Cosby Show on an awesome New Year's Eve night with all of you.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
I'm Dr. Peggy Polonis. Join me on each episode where I unravel the story that shaped leaders, tracing the thread that led them where they are today. Because leadership isn't born in adulthood. And thank you once again for joining us on the Leadership Thread, education, ethics, and sustainability.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. This National Foster Care Month, Marine Toys for Tots is providing hope to children who need it most. Staff Sergeant James Caldwell, who grew up in foster care himself, shares that while handing out gifts at a Toys for Tots distribution event, a little girl looked up at him, reached into her bag, pulled out a stuffed animal and said, "Someone needs to make sure you get a toy too." That simple gesture embodies the heart of Marine Toys for Tots, ensuring every child, including those in foster care, experiences the kindness that can transform their future. Visit toysfortots.org today. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
As we're getting ready for Zohran Mandani to become the 111th mayor, let's go real quick to Norm in Brooklyn. Go ahead, Norm. Your thoughts, line 4.
My thoughts are, I'm extremely apprehensive for, Zohran's reign. And I'm glad that Jessica Tisch is still there. And, we shall see. But, I think this is the beginning of the end.
Yeah, it could be the eve of destruction. Let's hope not, because New York is tough. But Mandani, wow.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on. The Rita Cosby Show presents Back the Blue.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from East Patchogue, New York, where 2 Suffolk County police officers and a sergeant rescued an 8-year-old boy who fell through the ice on a pond. The young boy was playing on the frozen pond when the ice gave way, sending him into deep water. The child was unable to pull himself out. Thankfully, a nearby resident saw the boy struggling and immediately called 911. The officers responded to the scene and they entered the freezing pond, whereupon they threw a life ring to the child. They then made their way to the boy to pull him from the freezing water. Now, simultaneously, the highway patrol also carefully crossed the ice as well. and thankfully was able to also reach the boy and pull him from the water. Great teamwork. Well, the boy was immediately taken to the hospital and is expected to make a full recovery, thanks to our great men and women in blue who were there immediately to save that young boy's life. Well, we are talking about New Year's Eve, everybody. I want to hear your resolutions and also your thoughts about the fact that Mayor Eric Adams will be ending his tenure starting in about an hour and a half from now. And then New York City and America will have Zohran Mandani, a Democratic Socialist, Muslim mayor, someone who has made some very shocking comments in the past. So what's ahead? Well, earlier today, I wanted to play this interview because it is terrific with Melissa DeRosa. She was a senior aide for a long time with then Governor Andrew Cuomo. And John Catsimatidis and I talked with her about what she thinks is ahead for New York and America under Zohran Mandani. Take a listen. Let's go to Melissa DeRosa, if we could. Of course, former senior aide to then Governor Andrew Cuomo. Melissa, I want to start with what I was just thinking about when Rudy was just talking about he's going to put his hand on the Quran. And I would like to know, where was the media during everything? I'm sure you're wondering this too. Why wasn't the media when Zohran Mandani was running saying, will you denounce Sharia law? Will you denounce that? They really were woeful. The New York media fell so short in grilling this guy, and he's about to be mayor in less than 7 hours.
Well, first, Happy New Year to all of you. And I have to say, John, I was chatting with someone after. This is my second time on WABC today. I was on with John this morning. And I said, John Catsimatidis is so old school. He demonstrates everything about hardworking people who came to this country. Is the owner of the station, and Sid Rosenberg is off on vacation somewhere, and John, the owner of the station, is filling in for Sid while he's on vacation. So first, my hat is off to you, John. And Happy New Year to the whole crew.
I've been doing this for 70 years.
He's going to give himself a raise.
This is the hard work that, previous generations were taught that I think current generations could learn a lot more from. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
But listen, my thoughts on Zohran Mandani tonight at midnight, honeymoon's over. I think that he has gotten a complete and total free pass from the media for the last, 14 months. And tonight at midnight, the rubber meets the road. And what I find so shocking is that going into tomorrow, when he is officially going to be mayor of the city of New York, the greatest city in the country, one of the most complex local economies on the globe, he's barely appointed anyone to serve in the government. So for all of his complaining and criticism of Mayor Adams and that administration, he essentially inherits his entire government. I think he's only made a couple of announcements of appointees, and the ones that he have made should keep a lot of people up tonight, very nervous about what we're going to incur here coming into the next year. It's a lot of virtue signaling and politics. And I don't know which one of you mentioned it. Maybe it was Rudy Washington, but topping it all off with, Bernie Sanders coming into the city of New York, Chuck Schumer's backyard, completely disrespecting the minority leader. And it symbolizes what all of this is going to be about.
Yeah, and there is going to be a lot ahead. I mean, you look at even some of the people that he has put on his transition team, the new people that he is now naming to his administration, again, which will get underway in about an hour and a half. Here's a little bit more with Melissa DeRosa on what she thinks is ahead for Mandani and New York.
Which is politics, not about government.
Besides that, hasn't he quasi given pink slips out to 171
City Hall employees?
Well, and that was just, for show and to be completely disrespectful. People like Randy Mastro, he puts on that list just to act like a tough guy. It's like, give me a break. Randy Mastro was out the door, and had previously endorsed Andrew Cuomo for mayor and obviously had no intention in staying under a Democratic socialist.
He put Eric on the list, too.
Yeah, he put Eric, exactly. It was just to be disrespectful, and it was frankly just another smoke and mirrors move by a 34-year-old kid who's never had a job, who is about to learn the hard way tomorrow what it means to govern in general, but to govern a city as complex as New York. So to steal Rita's words, buckle up.
I'm at least relieved in a way that he's kept the majority of Eric Adams' people in place. Eric did a damn good job these last 4 years. He cleaned up the city. He made this city a better city than what he inherited from de Blasio. What I don't understand is why go to de Blasio and ask him for recommendations when this guy clearly destroyed the city of New York.
Well, listen, I think also it was like Zohran Mandani ran on generational change and new vision and out with the old. And like we're getting a lot of just de Blasio retreads.
Yes.
None of these are new names. Dean Foulahan, who's going to be the first deputy mayor, is I think in his 80s. He was Shelley Silver's right hand. I mean, and some of these other people, Steve Banks, who's going to come in, the Corp Council. Who, by the way, was in charge of homeless services under de Blasio when we saw an explosion of homelessness, when we saw high-profile crimes across the shelter system. When I was working for Governor Cuomo, we went to war with Steve Banks over how poorly they were running the homeless system under de Blasio. And, he believed in this civil right to live on the streets and freeze to death, and we had to do code blue to clear homeless off after when it went below freezing temperatures. And these are the people he is appointing. And so I think we're going to get a recycled de Blasio government, but more politicized, more incompetent, people who were in positions they shouldn't have held then, holding higher up positions now. And, we're going to see the end results. And he made a lot of promises on the campaign trail, barely none of which was he held to account by the media in terms of how they were going to get done. And New Yorkers, particularly young New Yorkers, who cast their ballot for him because they liked his TikToks, are going to learn that governing doesn't exist, through performance art. You actually have to get stuff done. And I think in a year we'll see where we stand, but I'm not that hopeful at this point.
It's going to take that long to find out where we stand?
I think we're going to find out in one day, Melissa.
I think we'll find out in 90 days. 90 days.
I'll split it in half.
Get interim report cards.
Yeah.
Melissa,
I'm sure you guys will hold him accountable.
I want to talk about who he did hire and who he did bring in, because you brought up, you and Fernando were talking about some of the, the refurbishment of the Bill de Blasio years. But here's who he did bring in that he added. And this guy really troubles me. Ramzi Qassem. He is going to serve as the City Hall's chief counsel for Zohran Mandani. And I want to remind everybody who this guy is. And what troubles me, I see these covers of, okay, this is a rehash of Bill de Blasio. This is not to me. This to me is a true believer. I didn't feel this sort of radical, anti-Semitic streak in Bill de Blasio. I see it with this one. And the reason I'll tell you, this guy who he hired, Ramzi Qassem, is the City Hall's chief counsel under Mandani. Just brought him in. This is the guy who represented Mahmoud Khalil, who led all those protests, the pro-Hamas protests at Columbia and elsewhere. And then this guy also, Ramzi Qassem, famously represented a convicted terrorist, al-Darbi, who pleaded guilty to trying to bomb a French oil tanker. And he defended him, saying he was basically a nice guy. So you tell me who we're bringing in a matter of hours to New York.
Do you know who's going to really feel the heat and the pressure of Mandani? Is Hochul. She's going to feel it really.
I could not agree with you more. And she's going to wear everything he does and get none of the political upside. And she's up for election this year, and she's going to get all the negative of Zohran Mandani, and she's going to feel it in upstate, and she's going to feel it on Long Island, and she's going to get none of the upside in New York City because she's going to have to say no to him on a lot of the things he wants from the legislature. And if she acquiesces, she loses to Bruce Blakeman. If she stands up to him, then she's already been listed on the DSA, Democratic Socialist of America's, top enemies list, and you're going to see them run a rough primary against her and torture her on the left. So she is going to be in an absolutely no-win position. She should have been a foil to him during the campaign and stuck by the middle. Nancy Pelosi, I don't know if you guys saw, the other day it was reported, Brad Lander went over and introduced himself and said, I'm running against Dan Goldman. And she said, well, I'm a Dan Goldman Democrat. And we don't need, far lefties primarying our moderates. We don't need the Democrats versus Democrats. And that's the position that Hochul should have taken in sticking with the middle. And instead, she is going to own every single decision and every single thing Zohran Mandani does in an election year.
She's going to have to co-run New York City. It's not going to be
if she
Mandani.
Wants to.
No, she's going to have to, because this is an election year.
I agree.
New Yorkers are going to wake up, Rita, and they're going to say this is unacceptable.
You know what the problem is, Fernando? That she's going to have to really, and Melissa and you understand, everybody here, she's going to have to do this dance, because yes, she's going to have to keep him in line, because if he gets out of hand, no doubt that I agree with you, and I hope she does. The other thing is she's also going to want his supporters to vote for her. So she's going to have to do this little tango, and that's not going to be good for New York.
To be honest with you, I mean, he ran an amazing campaign. He ran a campaign that was based on his religion. He ran a campaign based on, recruiting these young people, these young radicals, and they followed. And, it happened. It's unfortunately, but it happened. Well, as long as Zohran Mandani respects capitalism and capitalists
and Jewish New Yorkers.
Yeah, but I'm speaking about, so much the people that come here and invest their entire life saving to create jobs. As long as he doesn't tamper with that, I think that, he may be a good mayor.
By the way, I'm deeply concerned, because you know what's going to happen? The first protest that's going to happen, my concern is, Fernando and Melissa, my concern is he's going to say, keep going, as opposed to stand down. And that's what concerns me, Melissa.
Look, on the capitalism, on the public safety, on the protests, look, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. He went on Meet the Press the Sunday after he won the primary, and he said he doesn't believe in capitalism. He's got Bernie Sanders swearing him in tomorrow on the steps of City Hall. So I don't know why we would believe for 1 second that he is going to be doing things to promote capitalism and businesses in that way. He's already told you he's not going to, and he won. That's number one. Number two, on the protests, he announced during the campaign he was going to disband the special unit within the NYPD that specifically responds to protests. And I think that that's going to be one of many things that come up where there's going to be a test between him and Jesse Tisch, and who's going to win and who's going to lose, and how long does it take her to walk out the door when they have one of those. Because at the end of the day, he's got to dance with the girl that brought him, and he was elected by the DSA. He was elected by this group of far fringe lefties, young kids, and they expect him to abide by the things he said he was going to do. Now, you see him flip-flopping all around already. Today, he flip-flopped on mayoral control, which during the campaign he told the teachers union he was not going to be supportive of mayoral control. He was going to let it go back to local control. Today, he flip-flopped on that. We've seen him flip-flop on other things. So we'll see what he holds the line on. But look, don't kid yourself. He is but a vessel. And at the end of the day, if he does not stick to his campaign promises, the far left is not going to stand with him, because they don't care about him personally. They'll flip on him just like they flip on everybody else. They are purists.
Melissa,
so that's what I say when I say midnight, honeymoon's over, and we're going to see what happens here.
Melissa, Happy New Year. Let's pray for a better year.
Buckle up.
And me and you will talk soon.
Happy New Year, guys. Have a good one.
Take care, Melissa.
Yes.
Thank you, Melissa.
And now we have Mike Pompeo. You want to bring him in?
And then we had Mike Pompeo. It was an action-packed show, but Melissa's spot on. This, to me, though, is a very different breed than Bill de Blasio, who many remember members of the Blue, the men and women in blue, turned their backs on him during a funeral. There are a lot of men and women in blue who are not saying they're going to turn their backs on him. They say they're going to run away. And that's why this is an interesting time for sure in New York. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Robert on line 4. Robert, your thoughts tonight.
Thanks for taking that call, and healthy New Year. In terms of there was Nick Brown, apparently the Washington State Attorney General has mentioned about his office getting Somali complaints about harassment about daycare providers. Well, Hamid Dillon she responded, she tweeted out that any state official who chills or threatens to chill a journalist's First Amendment rights is going to have to answer up. And civil rights takes potential violations of 18 U.S. Code Section 242 seriously, she said. So now, in terms of Mandani, I think there should be counter-protests against him and against some of the horrific protests that are going on. And, what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. If I want to protest, I should. I should also be able to wear a mask, regardless of whether I need to for medical reasons. What's good for one should be good for the other. And will he show as much tolerance for people that are like me who are protesting against him and against the Hamas people? Will he show as much tolerance, or is he going to sick the police on us? It'd be interesting to see. Now, in terms of Ramzi Qassam, Laura Loomer found she posted on her Twitter that this guy, this was December 4th, 1998, he authored an article for the Columbia Spectator. He was in Columbia College, a senior. And one portion, just a quote, it would be more logical to acknowledge that terrorism is but one of many reactions to oppression and dispossession, and not their cause, unquote. So this guy is a senior. He wrote she tweeted, she has the image. She put it on the Twitter, Loomer. This guy in 98, when he was a senior in college, he basically is trying to explain away terrorism. That it's not, it's not their cause. It's a reaction, many reactions to oppression and dispossession. So,
So where is this headed, Robert? You put a lot out there. Where is all this headed? Because this, to me, I think, you brought up Hochul, you brought up Mandani. It's going to be an interesting balancing act. Don't you agree between the two?
Well, I didn't mention Hochul, but maybe previously I did. But, Hochul and Trump, I expect them to do their best to take, to limit him.
I don't see that. I don't see that happening with Hochul. And that the reality is, I don't see her doing that because it's an election year and she's going to want his support. She also endorsed him too. Let's not forget that, Robert. So I don't see her necessarily reining him in. And I think that that's not good news for New York. There's got to be checks and balances. And let's see if she can be tough. I'm not sure, Robert, that's the sad reality of, I think, what's ahead. But Robert, you brought up some great points, and we definitely all need to stay vigilant and keep an eye and speak out if there's something that is improper, because there may be a number of things that we all go, what the heck is going on to New York, to keep, our city safe, our country safe, and our values safe. 1-800-848-9222. And everybody, we will continue your calls on this New Year's Eve. There's a lot to talk about. New Year's Eve sometimes are slow. This ain't a slow one, guys. And I'm so thrilled I'm going to be with all of you. 1-800-848-9222. And you're listening to this very special edition of The Rita Cosby Show live on New Year's Eve with all of you.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And they are dancing in the streets all over the world today and soon in New York City. Let's go to Mike on the Lower East Side. Mike, first, your thoughts tonight and your New Year's resolutions.
Happy New Year, you and your family, Rita.
Thank you. What are you hoping for, by the way, real quick?
Well, just to try and become a better human being and see the good in others, and just work hard to keep my Father in heaven, happy with me,
Beautiful. By the way, Mike, that is what it's all about. Faith, family, friends, and good health to everybody. And that's what I'm praying for all of you guys. We're going to come back after a few minutes, and also President Trump putting out what his wishes are for this new year. Find out after the break.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.